What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Chuck Talks to Jesus podcast. I forgot to upload last week on Instagram, kind of letting y'all know that I made an episode, but I'll remember this time, hopefully. So yeah, today you might be kind of wondering. I'm debating on a title for this, but hopefully I choose "Get Back Up." Um, yeah, yeah. Get back up. What does it mean? I guess another secondary question also could use as the title is how to reignite your fire with God. Um, Now I will say this sermon is not my own. This episode is not from my own mind. It is actually during the ice storm. We for 2 Sundays in a row, just because the roads were all icy and we weren't sure what the weather conditions were going to be. Church was canceled. So what me and my family did, we all kind of gathered in the living room. COVID days kind of came back, and we watched a sermon on YouTube. And if you know this pastor, great. If you don't, you should really check him out. His name is Josh Howerton. So Pastor Josh, he had a really good sermon, and um, it was good enough to where, hey, let's make an episode about it. I obviously schedule my episodes, so when I saw it in January, or whenever the ice storms happen, I didn't upload about it right away just because I scheduled it. So now's the time. Oh, okay, never mind. I actually wrote the date. It was February 1st. So it's been about a month and a week since then. So yeah, Lake Point Church. If you've never heard of it, it's the church that Pastor Josh preaches at. This is not local, obviously. I mean, he's pretty famous. He's gained a lot of following and good because he's very close with the Lord, and he preaches some good stuff about Jesus and about our walk with Jesus and what it should look like, and in this case, how you reignite your fire with God. So I'm not going to go, I obviously took some notes. I'm not going off of his sermon directly, but just some notes that I took from it and some notes that he gave us. So yeah, kind of before we get into this, sometimes, how to reignite your fire with God. If you're, you know, even more intrigued now, because obviously, Get Back Up, it's kind of a broad title. But now, since I've asked this question, how do you reignite your fire with God? If you become more intrigued because maybe your walk with God is not close, and we've all gone through this. I can attest to this. Pretty sure whoever's watching, you can attest to this. Everybody can attest to this. Your Pastor Josh, can probably attest to this. You know, so no matter how much fame or how close, how high up, I don't want to say it in that way, but for lack of better words, how high up you are in maybe a church, maybe you're a leader, maybe you're a pastor, maybe you mentor, younger kids, um, maybe you mentor older people. Who knows? I don't know. But we've all struggled with kind of losing the flame for God. Uh, I've definitely been through this, and I continue to struggle. I would say, to be 100% open and honest, I struggle with it currently. Day in and day out, it's hard to kind of get up and just be like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go live for Jesus. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's like, heck yeah, dude. Sometimes you feel that motivation. Um, and I dropped an episode. This was one of my first episodes. I think it was actually episode 3, maybe 3 or 4, and it was spiritual discipline versus motivation. Right. So if you remember that, we talked about motivation, kind of feeling like you want to do it, and that's a good thing. But discipline is a lot better, and a lot, especially spiritual discipline. But you can just discipline all across the board is going to be a lot better in the long run, and specifically for your relationship with Christ. Because discipline, it doesn't matter how you feel, you do it anyways. And we looked at the ultimate form of discipline, and that was Jesus Christ on the cross. I don't care how strong you are, like Jesus was, or how great you are, how perfect you are. Because he's perfect. He's the only perfect person that ever lived, that continues to live. But it don't matter who you are. You're not going to want to do that. You're not going to want to die on the cross because you want to. You're not going to take hits from, the cat of nine tails. If you don't know what that looks like, look it up. Pretty brutal. And have your flesh ripped out, have your beard chunks pulled out, not because you want to, So the lighting's really weird. Sorry. All right, that's maybe a little bit better. I don't know. I don't really like it. It's really weird. I'll turn on a light real quick. Hold up. Okay, that didn't help one bit. A little bit. All right, anyways, sorry. But, like I said, discipline is doing what you want to do, doing what you don't want to do, but doing it like you love it. That's a general worldly term, but in terms of spiritual, doing what you don't want to do because of your love for Christ. And sometimes it's not, not doing what you want to do, doing what you don't want, but also not doing what you want to. So go check out that episode. That's among the most popular episodes that I've uploaded. So go check that out if you haven't already. But anyways, so let's say you're in a period of time where your fire is lacking for God. You're not really feeling it. You're not really, I'll read my Bible, once a day. I'll do my devotion, but then after that, man, I'm good. That's kind of how I think sometimes. It's like, well, as long as I do my devotion and I read my Bible, and that in between area, my free time. It's my non-God time. I don't have to really live for Jesus during that time. That's how I lived the majority of my freshman year of college and even sophomore year of college. At least the first semester. That's how it was. Like literally, do my devotion, pray, whatever. Live completely opposite of what I just read, or the Bible, and then maybe read it at night. Probably not. I'd probably watch TV to go to sleep, and then that'd be it. So, you're checking the things off, but you might not have that fire for God. So how do you reignite it? We'll actually get into the sermon now. So even though he never read 2 Samuel 11, he still kind of talked about it a little bit. So we're not going to read 2 Samuel 11 just because we only have so much time. We only have so much time. So 2 Samuel 11, if you don't know what it's about, I give you the rundown. It's about David, Bathsheba, and Uriah. Okay? So the story is David was comfortable in his house, and he was kind of just chilling, and then he saw Bathsheba. He looked out, saw Bathsheba bathing on the roof or wherever, and he liked what he saw. So he sent one of his servants. He was like, hey, I want me some Bathsheba, okay? And pretty sure the servant said, well, she's married, to Uriah, one of your soldiers, actually. And David was like, long story short, all right, I'm still going to need Bathsheba. And they ended up doing it, and Bathsheba ended up pregnant. And then, Uriah was like, oh, okay, well, or not Uriah. David was like, oh, okay. Well, now I know what we need to do to make this situation even better. We need to kill Uriah. So put Uriah out in the front line to die. So the enemy kills him. And David and Bathsheba, they had a kid together. There you go. That's the rundown, okay? But what led to that? And what Pastor Josh was talking about was slothness. So when we think of slothness, we think of some dude on a couch, big old gut, big old beer belly or whatever, big old gut, eating Cheetos, drinking soda, watching TV, reclined, just, a lazy sack. That's what we think of. We think of the extreme. As humans, we think of the extreme when we think of anything. But, when we think of sloth, we think of some lazy dude with a, fat, just super fat, eating Cheetos and, Hot Pockets or whatever, drinking a Mountain Dew, right? It's not always like that. Okay, and I did not write this part down. I can't really remember the sermon, but slothness doesn't always look like that. Slothness it's not always, okay, so I did write this down. Sloth is always not inactivity. So like I mentioned, the picture that I've kind of created in your head, that it's not always just inactivity. Sometimes it's activity in the wrong direction. So let's say God's this way. If you're running aimlessly that way, that's still slothness. Because you're not doing the will of God. You're just running aimlessly. You're not running towards a goal. And so sloth can divert you. So we'll get into some points. So if you want to take notes, you can. Okay. I don't really like to treat this podcast like a Bible study, but sometimes that's what it is, or like a sermon where you take down notes or anything. But this Sunday it's different, or this Monday it's different. So sloth will do three things. Okay. I think Pastor Josh called it the 3Ds. Okay. It will distract you, it will divert you, and it will discourage you. So 3 things that sloth can do. Slothness. So it will distract you. What does that look like? What does that mean? And a good point to add that I wrote down is the devil doesn't have to destroy you when he can distract you. So the devil's not always going to just ruin your whole life. What the devil might actually do is give you something pretty good to distract you from what's more important, and that is God, right? That is God's will for you. So the devil doesn't always have to destroy you completely to get you off the path that God has intended for you. Sometimes he'll just distract you a little bit. Just, let's say sometimes in an extreme case where David's just chilling and he sees Bathsheba. Maybe you see a Bathsheba. Maybe you see a very attractive woman talking to guys, and you're really focused on maybe making a name for yourself, or you're really focused on your sport. You're really focused on God. I mean, you need to be, you're really focused on God, and the devil gives you a girl who looks really good, and puts her in your line of sight, and you're like, man, dang, okay, you just kind of peek over at her like David did. Guess what? Hint, David didn't just look at Bathsheba, but it started with the look. It started, and it could be something extreme as that, or it could be some money. You can get some money. Man, I'm financially sound now. I can do whatever I want with my money. I can relax a little bit. I can, I don't really need God that much. I got this money. I got this big paycheck. I got this, my tax returns came back, right? I'm balling now. I'm good, So slothness can distract you. It doesn't always have to destroy you. The devil doesn't always have to destroy you when he can just distract you a little bit. Because here's the thing. As long as it gets you off, usually when the devil destroys you, you tend to run to God, right? But when he can distract you a little bit, you don't even notice it at first. So it'll distract you. Slothness can also, like I said, the second one, divert you. And that's where I mention sloth is not always inactivity. Sometimes it's running aimlessly. We have a verse for that. 2 Corinthians 9:24 and 26a, which I don't know what they always mean by that, but whatever. So 24. There's no 24. That's awkward. All right. That's it. Okay, that's really weird. Sorry for like the awkward pause, but what the heck? Maybe First Corinthians? I sure hope so, because that would be very, very awkward. There we go. Okay, I think this is it. All right. Sorry, First Corinthians 9:24. I was about to freak out and end the episode. All right. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. And then go down to I'll read 25. We'll do 24 through 27. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others I myself should be disqualified. So what does... And by the way, Paul is not throwing shade on athletes, but when athletes take athletics too seriously and they shut God out of it, look at this. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. Sounds pretty good, right? They do it to receive a perishable wreath. But we, talking about us Christians, an imperishable. So can you be a Christian athlete who chases success? Yes, you can. All right, I'm not saying you can't. Paul's not saying you can't. I don't know what he's not saying, hey, Christian athletes, you can't really, chase success, right? Because it's perishable. And while that is true, yes, but you should not put the rewards that the success, the athletic success, above godly success, or you know what I mean, like the imperishable wreath that you get from exercising self-control in your walk with God, in a godly way, in a biblical way. And then he says, "But I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified." Right, discipline your body. What does that mean? Does that mean physical? I don't think Paul's talking about physical. But anyways, the main focus on these chunk of verses, because the sermon only talked about 24 and then part of 26, so I do not run aimlessly. So don't run aimlessly. Don't do it. I mean, it's very hard to. A lot of us, we run in a certain direction thinking it's the direction that's going to fulfill us the most. But 9 times out of 10, if we choose the direction that we run in, it's probably not going to be in the right direction. If we let God choose the direction that we're running in, well, we can trust Him. And we can trust His... Obviously we can trust His judgment and His plan for us. That goes without saying, but still, it's important to think that, because it's very hard. It's very hard to not run aimlessly. There's so many things that happen that are going on in the world, our culture, the values that we as a culture kind of all together kind of shoot for or pay attention to, and that those are perishable values. That's money, success, fame. I pretty much summed it all up right there. Good job, right? That kind of goes with success. But yeah, so sloth isn't always... That's a part of slothness. Chasing the wrong things is the same thing as not moving at all. Sometimes even, let's say midpoint, right? You're not doing anything right here. Aimlessly is that way, towards God is that way. Sometimes when you're in the middle, or when you're just not really doing anything, Not saying you should choose that. You should always run, go in the direction of God. But look at this. You're right here. If you run aimlessly, you're 10 times farther from God. Again, not saying doing nothing is better than running aimlessly. They're both bad. But running aimlessly, you're getting even farther from God, and you don't even know it. Like, hey, I'm running in a direction, but it's not the right direction. And then number 3, what sloth can do. So it'll distract you, it will divert you, and it will discourage you. I think this is the most important one of sloth. Just because it is hard does not mean it's not from God. I love that. And I'm so glad I wrote that down. Just because it is difficult does not mean that, okay, well, this is from the devil. There's this one, I swear I have mentioned this before in a previous episode, but there was this guy. He said, let's say you have a video game, right? And let's say your life is a video game, and your character, you're playing or whatever, you're playing him, and there's all these attributes, and under each attribute, it's 0 out of 10 challenges completed, right? Let's just say that. And you click on, okay, I want patience. Sorry. And then you click on patience, and you're like, all right, well, you gotta, do this, do that. And all these things are hard, and you're like, okay, let's get to it. What makes your life any different? I just put that in a video game context. I dumbed it down. I simplified it. You all understand what I'm talking about, hopefully. I don't know. But what makes your life any different? To get these attributes, to get wisdom, who is often the wisest person in the room? Number 1, maybe the oldest person. But why? Why is the oldest person the wisest? Usually, it's because they've seen a lot. They've been through a lot. Maybe a lot of good, maybe a lot of bad. Who knows? But they know. Here's the thing, right? Let's say you're a little kid and you don't know when the stove is red, it's hot, right? So you don't know that, and let's say you as a little kid can reach the stove. You touch the stove and it hurts. Well, now you know, if I touch that stove when it's red, it's going to be hot, and I'm going to get hurt. So guess what? I'm not going to do it. And matter of fact, I'm going to tell other people, don't touch the stove, man. It's hot. Okay, when that red thing's on, he's going to tell his buddies, right? Don't touch it. It is hot. But what did it take for that kid to learn that? It took for him touching the stove and maybe getting a little second degree burn, right? But a certain degree burn. Probably only first, okay? And maybe a blister and it hurt. He couldn't really touch water. He couldn't take a shower. Whatever it is. I don't know if that makes sense, but what I'm trying to get at is just because if you want success, if you want godly success, biblical success, if you want to grow in your walk with Jesus, you're going to have to do some hard things, okay? Just like anything else in the world. It's not different. It's actually 10 times harder, in my opinion, right? Becoming a professional athlete, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a doctor, becoming whatever you want to do. It's often hard, okay? To be a doctor in physical therapy, you have to go to school for 6 to 8 years. That's 6 to 8 years, right? The doctorate physical therapy program, I think, is 2 years. Doesn't sound bad. It is all year. It is all year, back to back. That's pretty hard. But then guess what? What do you get at the end of those 2 years? You're literally a doctor. You get to say, Dr. Insert, I'm going to do my last name, Dr. Roberts. That sounds freaking cool, okay? But what did it take? It took two very hard years to do that. If you want to become a professional athlete, it can take years and years and years and years. Some steroids, just kidding. Years and years and years and years. It can take years to achieve that. Sometimes it's taken 10, 15 years for someone to finally succeed. There was this one Colombian, I think it was Colombian weightlifter, either Colombian or Brazilian. Forgot, because of his uniform, I forgot what color it was. I think it was Colombian. And it showed Athens 2000. I think that's where the Olympics were in 2000. Athens, okay? And then it showed like Beijing or Sydney, Australia. No, Sydney 2000, Athens 2000, whatever, right? But he started his journey, his Olympic journey in 2000, and he didn't win the gold medal until 2016, I think. 2016. So he was doing, I think he was doing this and then this. So clean and jerk, I think. I don't know. But he was doing that. He trained, and it was longer than 16 years because you had to get to the Olympics in the first place. But he trained, let's say, for 16 years. That's still a lot. His Olympic journey was 16 years, and he didn't win a gold medal until the 16th year. So sometimes it's gonna be hard, okay? And I hope this builds you up a little bit. But when it's hard, 9 times out of 10, it means you're gonna, especially, it doesn't mean it's not from God. Usually it means it's from God. It's a character building moment. So just because it's hard does not mean it's not from God. And then how to defeat these things. First, you have to learn to say no to worthless things and yes to eternal things. So even though in the example of the weightlifter chasing that gold medal is going to lose its gold shiny color one day. That business that you do is eventually going to shut down one day. Or you're finally going to retire and not whatever it is. And we're all going to die one day. Sorry to ruin your, I just lifted y'all up and then I said we're all going to die. My bad. Okay? But we have to learn to say no to worthless things that we think are going to fulfill. Even I'm not saying you can't chase the business or chase the money, chase the gold medals, chase the professional status, whatever it is, right? Chase the doctor title, right? But when you chase that, I shouldn't have said chase. You can pursue those things, but if you don't pursue God, they're all worthless. They're all worthless. And you have to learn to say no to those worthless things and yes to eternal things, which is yes to Jesus, yes to God. So how do you kill slothfulness? There's 3 more points. This is going to be a long episode, but it doesn't matter. This is good stuff. Feel free to break this up into parts. I think I'm going to try to figure out how to do timestamps. And I'll section these so you can, so you can better, I guess, watch it. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, how to kill slothfulness. How to kill it. 3 things we're going to rapid fire. Crucify condemnation. Okay? I think we've talked about that before plenty of times. Crucify it. So it's not like, no, you crucify it. You fully kill it. Get rid of it. Get rid of condemnation. Number 2, live by habits, not feelings. And there's 2 points with that. So how do you live by habits and not feelings? I've mentioned this in the episode, the spiritual discipline versus motivation. One of the first episodes. I mentioned that. You don't live by how do I feel today? Because guess what? If successful people did that, they wouldn't be successful. Okay, if the people that you see, the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the athletes, whatever, if they did that, they wouldn't be where they are. It takes habits, not feelings. So live by habits. There's 2 points with that. Successful people consistently do the things that unsuccessful people do sporadically. Good example is the gym, right? Let's say a guy goes to maybe one day a week. He hits it hard, full body. But he only goes one day a week. Sometimes he skips weeks. He doesn't go to the gym. He only goes to the gym on the weekends. Right? He only goes to the gym on Sundays. He doesn't go to the gym any other day but Sunday. I'm not talking about the gym, obviously. But the successful person consistently goes to the gym, consistently reads his word or her word. Consistently, just consistency. Consistently eats healthy, meal preps, packs his lunches, whatever, right? All those things. It might seem stupid sometimes. Man, I ain't got time for that. Man, I'm craving some Chick-fil-A, right? Craving some Chick-fil-A. But they're consistent. They're consistent. And consistency is key. We've heard that before. Consistency is key. And successful people master consistency. So how does that, in your walk with God, how does that look? Being consistent in the faith, right? Being consistent. Reading your word every day, but not just reading the word. Because, I can, mindlessly just read a devotion and be like, yeah, okay, that was good. I'm going to write that down. Dear Heavenly Father thing, amen, whatever. I can do that every day. That's consistent, but that's not the consistency that we're looking at, right? Consistently just obeying the Lord, right? Day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, just being consistent. Man, I don't really feel like reading my Bible today. I don't really feel like praying today. Do it anyway. Be consistent. Consistency wins in the long run. You can ask anybody that. Any successful person, they will tell you something about being consistent. You can't be successful and inconsistent at the same time. They're a direct relationship. Inconsistency, failure. Consistency, success. Okay? Simple as that. Second point, you do not rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your rhythms. All right, I'm so sorry. That's like the second time this has happened, and it was the same people. They came and visited. That's cool. I just had some people just spreading. It's pretty cool. Memorial of Jesus' death, so pretty nice. Let's get back to it. So you don't rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your rhythms, right? So real quick, we'll go through that. It's good to have goals, right? But let's say I'm that guy on the couch, right? Eating Cheez-Its or whatever, Doritos and drinking Mountain Dew, and I say, man, I want to be a basketball player one day. I want to be an Olympian, right? What are your rhythms? What are your systems right now? Eating Cheez-Its and drinking Mountain Dew and watching Netflix, right? And being overweight. So you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your rhythms. And that may sound bad, but if your rhythms are where your goals are, or higher than your goals, right? If you're eating like an elite athlete, maybe you're not an elite athlete yet, or you're spending your money like an entrepreneur, like being smart, it all ties together. It's a little bit easier using the athlete version, but whatever. And then number 3, elevate your vision. And the only thing we have to say about that, the only thing Pastor Josh had to say about that, was the people need what God has given you today. And that's it. The people need what God has given you today. Don't be discouraged by sloth. The devil loves to use that to discourage you, divert you, and distract you. But don't let it happen. Keep your eyes focused on God and live by godly habits, not feelings, because guess what? 9 times out of 10, you're not going to feel like worshiping God. Sometimes you will. Yeah, absolutely. But most of the time you're not. You're not going to, especially if you're in a hard season right now. But live by habits. Live by godly habits. He died on the cross for me so I can live for him and live for him no matter what, right? That's all I got today. A little bit of a long episode. Love y'all. Yeah, that's it. Y'all have a good rest of your week. We'll pray and we'll get out of here. Dear Jesus, thank you for you. Thank you for your death and resurrection. Thank you for the words that you've given us, the scripture that you've given us, the things that you give us that we can combat slothness and combat discouragement, all those things. Just pray that we are lifted up with by your power, by this message, and that we just go into this week living by habits, not feelings, and elevating our vision towards you. And that's in Jesus' name, amen. All right, thank y'all. I will see y'all next Monday.